Hello, this is Chapter 13, Brain Supplement, dealing with cranial nerves. At the end of Chapter 13's video on the brain, it was mentioned that a supplement would be provided for the cranial nerves. This is that supplement. It is based upon page 525, Cranial Nerves for Chapter 13. We're going to go through this handout. First, you'll notice it says cranial nerve chart, and the chart starts off with Roman numeral. The Roman numerals are important because that's how they were determined and how they are logged in. Then we have our name, our foramen. This is what you learned in the lab, where you learn the different holes in the skull and what cranial nerves go through it. So now you have the foramens. Then we have whether it's a sensory nerve, a motor nerve, or a mixed nerve. Some are sensory, some are motor, some are mixed, and then the last one is the function. Now, I've only given you a sample to start with in terms of the first two cranial nerves. You need to finish the chart for all 12. Down here at the bottom, we have key highlights. First thing is, how are you going to remember the cranial nerves? Well, I have a mnemonic for you called O, to touch and feel very green vegetables, ah. And ah is A-H, it's separate. So that gives you the 12 cranial nerves. Now you can find your own on Google or you can make up your own, but this is the one that we typically use. O, to touch and feel very green vegetables, ah. And below I have listed the names of the cranial nerves that correspond with that. Again, don't forget to finish the chart for all 12. Then down here I have key things that go with it. Here we have cranial nerves 3, 4, and 6, which is oculomotor, trochlear, and abducens. The importance is that they are all going through the supraorbital fissure and they all move the eyeball in different directions. So that would be important. Then down here for cranial nerve number 5, we notice that it's a mixed nerve and it has 3 branches. The 3 branches deal with the upper jaw, the lower jaw, and the eyeball. Now, from the 3 branches, this comment says dentists use this nerve for dental work. So when the dentist is numbing your face for your upper jaw, lower jaw, and your eyeball cheek area for the purposes of dental work, that's what they're doing. Now, the first nerve that they mess with is called the maxillary. And it's for the upper jaw, and it goes through a hole in the skull called foramen rotundum. Now, the way to remember that is the first 3 letters is max, and max means big. So we have max, and rotundum is round, so big, round. So big for max, round for rotundum, and that's a big, round. Maxillary goes with rotundum. The next one is mandibular or mandible, the lower jaw. The lower jaw goes through a hole called foramen ovale. Now, as you know that some people describe people's faces as square, round, oval. Well, in this case, we have the first 3 letters again, which are M-A-N, so man with the oval face. So mandibular, man with the oval face goes through the foramen ovale. Then the last one is ophthalmic. Since it pertains to the eye, it goes through the same foramen as the others did up here, which is supraorbital fissure. Then we have cranial nerve number 7, which is facial. And for that one, you just need to know that 5 branches exist. And they all relate to the face. So 5 branches for the face for facial. Then we have cranial nerve number 8, which is vestibulocochlear. Now that nerve has 2 parts. It's got the vestibular part that deals with balance and equilibrium, and then the second part is cochlear, which deals with hearing. Then we have cranial nerve number 9 down here. Now cranial nerve number 9 down here, the glossopharyngeal, deals with the back 1/3 of the tongue. Notice your tongue is broken up into pieces. The back 1/3 is done by glossopharyngeal, but the front 2/3 is done by facial, which we saw above here. So the facial deals with the front 2/3, glossopharyngeal number 9 deals with the back 1/3. Then number 10 is vagus. Now this is the one that's very important for AMP2. The vagus nerve is very important for the parasympathetic function to control the visceral organs. So in AMP2, you'll learn that the heart, the lungs, the intestines, the kidneys, the reproductives, they're all controlled parasympathetically by way of the vagus nerve. So very, very important for the nerves down here in the abdominal region. The last one is number 12, which is glossopharyngeal. That's key for the movement of the tongue when it comes to swallowing and speech. Okay, so this is your summary of the cranial nerves that go with chapter 13 at the end. Make sure you make the chart and make sure you keep these particular items in mind.